So, the next supposedly is the median for group data, but you already know that. The median for the group data is just the same process as the quartile, decile, and percentile. Therefore, we will not be discussing again the median for group data because we have done that for the past 2 weeks. Okay, so we will now be moving on with the mode for the grouped data. Ready? Okay, so let's now move on with the mode for the grouped data. So in the mode for the group data, ito yung kailangan nating tingnan mabuti because meron siyang specifics na kailangan natin tandaan. Okay? So let's now move on with the mode for the grouped data. Here. Okay, this is the mode for the group data. So it says here, to calculate the mode of group data, we will be using the formula below. So you are familiar with the symbol. I already presented this with you. So that's the mode. So LMO, this is actually the lower class boundary of the modal class. Lower class boundary of the modal class. Oy, meron na namang modal class. Okay. And then D1, this is the difference between the frequency of the modal class and the frequency of the class below it. Okay. Modal class. Okay. And then minus the frequency, frequency of the modal class minus the frequency of the modal class below it. Yung mas mababa. Okay? And D2 naman will be the difference between the frequency of the modal class, and the frequency of the modal class above it. Okay? And of course, you know I is the class interval. Okay? So, shall we continue? Let's now have this one. Okay. So in here, let me present this first. The frequency distribution below shows the age distribution of the registered, the registered participants for the free Zumba classes every Saturday. Find the mode. Okay. So if we will look at it, first step is to find the maximum class frequency. What is, or at what ages, what is the maximum class frequency? Which of those frequencies is the highest? Type it in the chat box, please. Remember, we are talking about mode, so we are dealing with the most frequent dito. So which frequency is the highest among the ones in the given? 60? Saan galing si 60? Okay, let's wait for the rest. Here, focus here. Alin ang pinakamarami dyan? Okay. Sige, na-misinterpret. No problem. So, the highest frequency is 20. Ayun. The highest frequency is 20. Very good. Now, after that, find the class corresponding to this frequency. That becomes your modal class. So, look at your class interval. This is our focus now. What is the modal class of this class intervals? Which of them is the modal class? Which range or which interval contains the most number of frequency? Type it in the chat box, please. Of course, very good. That's 21 to 30. Kasi yun yung katapat ni 20 na frequency natin. So that becomes our modal class. This is now our modal class. Okay? Got it? Now, let's move on na. And in here, dito natin magagamit. This is where we can use the reason for our frequency distribution table. Why is it arranged descending order? Bakit siya descending? Because it has a purpose. And how is that? So in here, the third step is to find the lower class boundary of the model class. Since the model class is 21 to 30, therefore, what will we do? How do we find kasi the lower class boundary? Yung pinakamababang range or interval range subtracted by 0.5, right? So therefore, if we have here 21, what is our lower bound? Anong symbol kasi yun? Lower bound of the modal class, LMO. The lower bound of the modal class is what? Subtracted by 0.5. Lower bound of the modal class. Type it in the chat box, please. In here, we did not anymore write the lower bound and the higher bound. So in our minds, we just subtracted by 0.5. Okay, that is for us to lessen the data in our table. Okay, so your classmates are correct. We have the lowest number, which is 21. So all we have to do is to subtract it by 0.5. So therefore, the answer will be 20.5. This is the lower bound of our model class, 20.5. Show me a reaction if finding the LMO is clear to you. Let me see. Very good. If you can follow the process, good. Okay. Oh, now, let's move on with our D1 and D2. Okay. Okay. So, again, this is our model class. MO na lang, model class. And then this is our highest frequency. Oh, now, it says a while ago here that for D1, it is the frequency of the model class, that's 20, minus the frequency of the model class below it. And which is the frequency below 20? Which is the frequency below 20? Type it in the chat box, please. Very good. Oops, is it 18 or 5? Below it, sa ilalim niya, remember, this is the reason why it is arranged in descending order. Kasi dapat descending yung order natin for the FDT of the mode. Okay, 5. That's correct. Okay, so let's continue. So in here, all we have to do to get our D1, we never should forget to subtract the frequency of the modal class by the value below it and then by the value above it. Remember that. So at least we already know how to identify them. We have here for the D1, so that's 20, minus the value below it, the frequency below it, that's 5. So D1 here is actually 15. Please take note of that, okay? D1 is 15 because we need to subtract. Remember here, there is the difference. Okay, next, and for the D2, all we have to do naman is to subtract 20 minus the value above it, that's 18. So the answer here is 2. Yun. Don't forget to subtract, ha? Okay? And after that, our class interval will be 10. We know that already.